What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Kyle Kelly. We are back on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. Looking forward to talking with you all about some Notre Dame football recruiting. Got several topics lined up for today's show. I was off last week. The week before, I did a solo show. Week before that, we had to skip. We just didn't have a Friday recruiting episode because Kyle was in South Bend for interviews. So it's been a month, Kyle. It's been a full month, man. How you been?
Yeah, not too bad. And it's kind of ironic. We have some interviews going on right now with new linebackers coach Max Bulla and new offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock happening in South Bend. So our buddy Tyler Horka is there covering that for us so we can talk some recruiting.
Yeah. So we have several topics lined up. Please, folks, hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel for more YouTube content, of course. And blueandgold.com is your home for all things Notre Dame Fighting Irish football and recruiting coverage. Our offer for new subscribers is $1 for 2 months when you use the promo code UND1. So please check that out over at blueandgold.com. So it has been a while since we talked on air um, for me and Mr. Kelly here. So wanted to go through the 2025 class and just kind of, just generally speaking, where things stand, what you're thinking. The class ranks number 5 in the country currently, which if you look at rivals and probably 24/7, they're probably number 1, which I've ranted many times about why that is, because I will see Twitter. Gosh, Twitter is just kind of the cesspool of dumb takes these days. Oh my God, On3 hates Notre Dame. How bad are those rankings? No, it's because the other sites are a popularity contest, and for the rankings, especially early. And On3 is not. It's more of an average than a total point system. So, I mean, Notre Dame has a 47% blue chip ratio per the On3 industry rankings. You tell me if that's deserving of the number 1 class right now. So I think 5 is probably more in line with what Notre Dame should be ranked. And 17 commits, high tally early on. Class led by, of course, Deuce Knight, Ivan Taylor, Owen Strebig, your 3 highest ranked players. So yeah, Kyle, 17 commits in late February, man. That's a high number. I mean, for a lot of schools, I feel like they're not going to get to 17 until like the fall.
Yeah, I almost wondering like how much of that is just like recruiting being sped up these days. Because I know there are a couple other classes with double digit commitments, but nobody is as far along as Notre Dame. And I know we had a thread on the loose emoji message board going this week about maybe it was the end of last week. Either way, sometime within the last few days, discussing the primary reason for Notre Dame's fast start in the 2025 cycle. And I basically said when it comes right down to it, it's the Notre Dame recruiting staff led by Director of Recruiting Chad Bowden,
Mhm.
Director of High School Scouting Dre Brown, and then Recruiting Associate Carter Allman. I know they have a lot of other new faces coming aboard. Some more behind the scenes people that really don't ever get the credit, and I know a lot of these guys and gals don't really they're not in the business for the credit anyway. They're all behind the scenes. But yeah, my credit goes to Bowden, Brown, and Allman. I kind of pointed to how, not only are they in touch with a lot of these recruits on a daily and weekly basis, but one thing they've done extremely well in this cycle is for all Notre Dame's major recruiting events, whether that be at, the end of the summer grill and chill where they hosted a lot of the 2025 targets, the Ohio State or USC games, and then the junior day in January. All these guys are always together on those main visits, and you've seen just guys from each one of those visits have come aboard and committed that have, going back all the way to July, we're on campus together. So that's just the fast start in this class. You can attribute to a lot of different things, but when it comes right down to it, I really point to the job of the recruiting staff at Notre Dame in this cycle.
Yeah, and Kyle, this is what your second class, third cover Notre Dame,
2025 will be my third.
third. Okay, so you would have you were at the other place, what, like midway through the 23 cycle or something like that? When you
Yep.
started there?
Yep.
You will learn, this is me being an old man now, and telling you something, giving you a little wisdom, Kyle. The one that is a huge reason. The other is just like Notre Dame just attracts the early commitments. Whatever it is about Notre Dame, just the note it attracts a lot of those no nonsense kids who are like, I know what I want in a school. Um, I want the academics. Like I just get it. I don't need more selling on it. I just get Notre Dame. So that's definitely a big thing. So yeah, the staff in talking about the great job they do. I think such a big part of it is they work their butts off, but it's the early evaluations. They get after it. I feel like they just beat a lot of other. Are we calling it Core Four? Core Four, officially adopting Core Four.
Yes, sir. Core four.
And so moving forward, because I've been reading your stuff, and you'll write Core Four and then parentheses, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, Big 12. Like I'm going with it, man. I'm just gonna write Core Four now and just let people figure out what it means. It's the replacement for Power Five. Rest in peace to the Pac-12. But yeah, I feel like they just beat up to the punch. Like we're gonna talk about this Dalen Penson kid. I'll pop his profile up on the screen for folks watching on YouTube. Um, Typically Notre Dame, you know, I mean, look at these other, excuse me, I almost said P5, Core Four, Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Indiana. Usually, and then there's a bunch of FBS, FCS. Like Notre Dame usually, or excuse me, most of the top 10 teams in the country are not like following those schools. Like they're not like the fifth Core Four offer or something like that. It's more like 10th or 15th. Like Notre Dame, um, pulling the trigger a lot because, or pulling the trigger early because a lot of times coaches at these big time programs, you know, they might like their evaluation, but they don't trust it enough to pull the offer super early. Or pull the trigger on that offer super early, because they don't want to get criticized. Oh, you're going after, lower rank guys. Notre Dame really does not give a damn on that. So I respect them for that, for sure. I wanted to talk about this. A couple of people have asked about this. December 4th signing day. Now, I just saw that report by The Athletic. I really haven't been able to think too much about this and how it impacts not only Notre Dame's classes in the future, but just recruiting in general. I would love to hear some reasoning for it, just on first thought. It probably makes our lives a little bit easier, Kyle. It just shortens the recruiting calendar a little bit. But otherwise, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's like that's conference championship weekend. So it might actually be good for Notre Dame since they're not going to be playing in a conference championship anytime soon. But or potentially ever. But yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. For people who are like, this is why it makes sense. They're the people who made this rule. I would love to hear from them because right now, it like moving it up 11 days doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Michael says helps with not interfering with bowl prep. It's not really a big deal. I mean, if you're playing in the Cheez-It Bowl, you still have 2 weeks to prepare. If you're playing in a playoff game, you know, it's the same thing, right? You still got plenty of time to prepare for your game. Like I don't think the bowl prep thing has anything to do with it.
I think the biggest reason they're moving the date up is because of the transfer portal window. I think coaches probably besides themselves trying to manage, the outgoing guys and trying to get incoming transfers, all that happened in December. I know I felt like I was kind of caught off guard at the end of the season because all these guys started announcing their intentions to enter the transfer portal before it even opened. And I know the grad transfers can jump in pretty much any time. So a lot of those guys, as soon as the regular season was over, they want to hop in because they want to get their spots. So I think that the big reason they're moving it up to December, early December, is to combat that transfer portal window. But I think that the best solution moving forward is probably and I think this is being discussed as well, to move the signing day up until August or sometime in late summer before the start of senior seasons. I know that could cause some controversy as well with guys potentially requesting releases from their letters of intents. That happens now anyway. A lot of guys with the coaching changes, a lot of those guys left anyway.
Yeah.
And I know it's, some people have kind of talked about just going back to a, major February signing day, but that makes things pretty challenging with early enrollees as well. So I think for the coaches and for us, selfishly, I think August is probably the best time. Gets the guys locked in. And I'm not certain about this, but I think most of the, or not most, but some of the other collegiate sports, they have their signing days, before senior seasons begin. So would it be that atypical? But yeah, I feel like the NCAA is trying to do anything they can to make change this a little bit, because right now the way it is, the calendar is just an absolute disaster.
Just my thought without take it for what it's worth. It's not something. This is not a topic that I like spend time thinking about, like in the shower or something. It's usually about Fortnite strategy, but like I would go August, and then if you have a head coaching change, then you have like a window to get out of your letter of intent. Just like the transfer portal, right? If your head coaches leaves, then you have a 30-day window to enter the portal. I think 30-day window to now get out of your letter of intent and sign with the new school. And then I don't know, this probably February. I would do like August and February. Um, that would kind of be my thought. And then you mentioned the early enrollee things. I mean, if you're an early enrollee, you can still just enroll whenever. When there was just one signing day, when it was just a February signing day, early enrollee still happened. They just kind of got there. I don't know exactly how all the paperwork and logistics work for that, but you can still enroll early and not sign in August. So that would be my thought, but I just feel like so much of this is trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, bro. Like
Exactly.
they just really open themselves up for now we need more and more and more player flexibility and which it can be a good it's can be a good thing, but tell me the sport is anything like it was a decade ago. I mean, it's just so much different. I mean, God, they got rid of the Pac-12 in like 6 months, or like who knows, man? It's a wild time to cover college athletics, but yeah, which is why I like Notre Dame just kind of standing pat and continue to do what they do and standing true to what and who they are. So yeah. There you go. That's my take on that. I didn't really anticipate us talking about all that today, but good question from ENC, and I think Dorito did as well. So, anything else along those lines you want to touch on, Kyle?
No, I think you summed it up well.
I know I always do. I always do. I'm kidding. I usually don't. But I'm going to ask you guys some questions before I move along. I'm just kind of curious, folks. Are you a displaced corporate executive? Are you wanting to put your career in your own hands? Are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? If you're answering yes to any of these questions, or if you're just interested in franchising in general, you're going to want to give Andy Ludicky a call at 404-973-9901. Andy's a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran. He's owned multiple franchises and businesses, and using Andy's expertise, he's going to help you find your American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. So give Andy a call. Again, that number, 404-973-9901, and put your life and career in your own hands. And his services are 100% free to you. That's the best news of this all. So what do you really have to lose? Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net. Give him a call, 404-973-9901. See what he's got to say. Give him your thoughts, give him your concerns, give him your questions, and Andy's going to help you out. myperfectfranchise.net. All right. So yeah, kind of just putting a bow, I guess, on the 2025 class before we dive into some other topics. Um, I'm going to write about this. I'm going to give you guys a little sneak preview. But before I do, please hit the thumbs up on this video, of course. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not done so yet. For listening via podcast, appreciate you. Leave us a kind review. And we always recommend coming over to YouTube if you're able to watch instead of listen. It's the better product. But I'm going to write about this at Blue and Gold Monday, is that Notre Dame is in a position where it can take about 10 more players. Like, So let's take a peek at this for folks watching on YouTube. So they're at 17 commits right now. Let's look back to 2024, right? They signed 23 commits in 20 or in 8 transfers, right? So you're about 31 there. And then 23 commits. When I say commits, that's high school guys, right? So 23 high school guys, 7 transfers. You're at 30. And then 2022, 22 commits, 3 transfers. So a lower transfer number. But I mean, this whole transfer portal thing with Notre Dame has really developed. I mean, Freeman just got that job in 2022. So you really look at the past 2 classes, that right around 30 number is key. Now, I was talking to blue and gold fans or readers upon getting back from my vacation last week, and I was telling them, like, looking at the numbers, and you get Sean Terry, and that was kind of like one we weren't really expecting. Just because, like, you take Sean Terry, but that doesn't mean you're going to stop pursuing Jerome Bettis and Derek Meadows. And then apparently Raiden finds Bright. So it's like, are you going to take up to 5 receivers? So I'm like, guys, like, I don't know, but I think we're kind of seeing a pattern of Notre Dame being like 23 is our number. And then whatever it ends up being, if it's 22, 23, 24, 25 high school guys, we're going to use the rest of those numbers to get to 30 via the transfer portal. Does that make sense, Kyle? You just give me a nod if I'm making sense so far. So 30 is kind of the number. I think it's going to be over 25 high school guys. I think they're going to get to 26, 27. And I think that it's going to be about 3, 4 transfer guys. So gun into my head, made me choose right now. I'm going to say like 26, 27 high school guys, and then 4 to 5 guys from the portal. Again, I'm going to cover this more in the gold standard on Monday. I've been talking to sources all weekend to do like a whole kind of class rundown of what to know about the class. But yeah, I'm all for it, Kyle. I mean, again, personally, we kind of like that 23 to 24. Makes our lives a little bit easier, but yeah, 27 and a few transfers.
Yeah, I feel like my only disagreement is this time of year. I think we're always projecting a bigger class, and it never ends up happening that way. So I'll be curious to see how Notre Dame finishes in the 25 cycle, just because they have such a big head start. But also, I mean, I feel like both of us can say, there are probably 3 to 4 guys where we feel extremely confident that not only is Notre Dame their top school, but I think we can say that Notre Dame leads for them. So
Yeah,
that
there's
that
2 off the
counts.
top of my head that I'm like, they're ND. So, we could really put it at 19, in my opinion.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, so I feel like this year could be the anomaly, especially with the remaining guys on the board. A lot of the guys that they're still after are must takes, whether that be um, you know, Derek Meadows out at Bishop Gorman, the highly rated 4-star wide receiver, Devin Williams, cornerback from Buford, Georgia, another highly rated 4-star guy. I know you did some more reporting on another top 150 4-star corner, Tristan Haynes from the Oklahoma area. Uh, they're recruiting 2 linebackers that are top 50 guys, Nathaniel Wusu Boateng, the younger brother of Jeremiah Wusu-Koromoa, Madden Faremo from California, whose recruitment is quietly a lot like Kingston Viliamu-Asa's. So
yeah.
there's a lot of those types of guys in this class that could really increase it to that 26, 27 number. So this is what makes our job so exciting, is because, like, yeah, in past years, we kind of expect bigger classes all the time, but it doesn't end up turning out that way. But I could definitely see that being the case this cycle.
Yeah. So there's definitely been a lot of times where it's like, oh, they're going to get to this number, and then they just don't land a Carter Nelson or the Namandi Boko, and they just don't add those extra numbers. So yeah, last year it was like the number for Notre Dame was like 23, but plus 2 if they can hit those on those top targets. Again, like a Carter Nelson, or like a Caleb Beasley, or someone who they could get late, and then they just don't get them. So then they're not going to take a guy just to take a guy. So is that kind of what you're saying about we expect a bigger number and then it goes down?
I think that, like I was kind of basically summarizing my point. I think there are 3 or 4 guys that we think are going to jump in Notre Dame's class sooner or later. And then that kind of gets us to that, 21, 22 number. And, then there's like another group of guys that, could wind up at ND. We'll see if they have room for them. And then there's like those other handful of guys that are takes like no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you could end up getting up to that, 26, 27
Yeah.
number.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way I see it end up being like a 23, 24 again is if they just don't like if they're just not able to close on some of these top guys, and then there's like again, we're not taking anyone to take anyone. So or take someone just take, like, oh, we want to fill our numbers and get up to 26. Like that, they're not Notre Dame's not really doing that. They're taking guys that they believe in. So
Exactly.
all right, let's look at the show outline, see what else we got. So yeah, I was at the Under Armour camp this past week. Got to see this guy. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's been a little bit covered this week. Deuce Knight from Lucedale, Mississippi, George County, number 40 overall player, number 5 quarterback per the 2025 on 3 industry ranking, and then on 3 is ranked has him as the number 29 overall player, number 5 quarterback. You see Rivals down there, 34 overall player, number 1 quarterback. Rivals is still extremely archaic in that they have dual threat and pro style quarterbacks. It's one of the dumbest things. I get that maybe 15 years ago, but in 2024, it's pretty outdated. But yeah, so he's the number 1 dual threat quarterback in the country, which I think he deserves. But on 3 is updating its rankings on Monday, so that'll be really interesting to see. I think Deuce is kind of going to stay right where he is from what I've heard. He might drop down like 1 spot in the quarterback rankings, which is pretty minuscule when you think about this is on 3's first 2025 rankings update since like October or something, since like early junior season footage dropped. So yeah, I think he'll stay right around 5 or 6. Excuse me. So yeah, I got to see him, and I wanted to, as I pop on the footage here for folks watching on YouTube, there has been so many articles this week at On 3 about Deuce, and it was like, the Dukes guy, I forget his name, Dukes something. We just hired him on 3. I don't even remember. But really cool hire for On 3. Like he did an interview with him, and the whole top 5 thing was not like my favorite thing I ever saw, but overall it was a good interview. I interviewed him, did a couple stories in that. Chad Simmons just interviewed him. Like we're interviewing him from this camp, so we have a different viewership than Dukes, than Chad Simmons. We're all under the same On 3 umbrella, but we all have different readers and goals and whatnot. So it's like I'm seeing like from Chad Simmons, who wrote the update on Deuce Knight, and they're like yelling at him like get his name out your mouth, like pulling a Will Smith on the guy. It's like it was a super fair article, and I'm like, guys, you just need to calm down a little bit. Like the Twitter outrages are just a little out of pocket these days. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, Deuce, if he takes visits, you be concerned. If he doesn't, no concern. But like the outrage over, there's articles on Deuce Knight like, and it's clickbait. I see Always Irish in the chat, and I think I saw something from you tweeted about clickbait. I'm like, guys, Always Irish, you're also in the business of clicks. Like we want people. We put out a product. We want people to view our stuff. Like it's not like the clicks thing. It's the stupidest thing. Yes, we want people to view our stuff. Like what the hell else? You just want us to put out videos and articles and no one watch it? Like, but I digress. I'll get off my high horse here. Kyle's over. Like Kyle, I see Kyle's face. Like Mike, just shut up. Could we just talk about the film here? Yeah, Deuce overall. Like I've said this a couple times now, and I'll go to you, Kyle. Like if CJ Carr's best thing was like how polished he was and how good he looked in the camp settings, that's not Deuce Knight yet. He's literally never had any private quarterback coaching. Like this is all just like high school coaching at small George County in Lucedale, Mississippi, and just his God-given athletic ability. So I think Notre Dame kind of prefers it that way because they just get him as a ball of clay and that they can mold and he's going to come in with habits obviously, but not like bad habits. It's not like he's been coached the wrong way. He's just doing what it comes natural to him. So yeah, it wasn't the cleanest. That throw right there was really nice and a fantastic catch by the receiver. It wasn't like his cleanest performance. But again, he's someone who's more about like Friday nights, getting outside the pocket, making plays as an athlete. And can he sit back in the pocket and dice you up? Absolutely. But like this setting is not like his best setting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of like what you would expect from Deuce Knight, some ups and downs. We've talked about him on Blue and Gold for a while now, being like the ultimate boomer bust prospect at quarterback, high ceiling, low floor sort of guy. And I think that kind of goes back to what you said. No private quarterback coaching or anything like that. I do find it really exciting in a way that Notre Dame could get this guy and really kind of craft him to the type of passer they see fit. As it pertains to his recruitment, I, so you and I have two different perspectives of Deuce Knight. You've seen him outside of Notre Dame, whether it be these camps or a game, and where I've seen Deuce Knight, during recruiting visits, and it honestly blows me away of like how locked in and engaged he is during each of his trips to Notre Dame. I think I even posted a video of Deuce Knight during one of his visits last year. Like, it's pretty impressive. Like, this guy, he's being pulled at in so many different directions by so many different people, and this was to be expected. I mean, this guy's located in the deep south. um I do think the Alabama recruitment is a little bit interesting, just because it seems like Knight and his family have some sort of affinity for Kalen DeBoer, going back to his Indiana days when he coached one of Deuce's brothers. So I think that process is intriguing. But other than that, I mean, this was pretty much expected, man. When you're
Yeah.
getting a guy from the South like this, like, teams aren't going to stop recruiting him. Like, why would they? Of course, Lane Kiffin's going to be calling this guy every day from Ole Miss. This is kind of what Notre Dame signed up for. And pretty much like you said, unless he starts to take visits, I'm not going to get worried.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and just the whole Twitter outrage about like stop writing about Deuce Knight, you're just winning clicks.
It's our
Just
jobs, man. We got to keep up
listen
with that.
again. It's like Super Bowl media day at these freaking camps. Like there's so much media. Of course there's gonna be a lot of stories about him. He's Deuce freaking Knight. I bet that quarterback standing right there, number 116 right here. Would you rather Notre Dame take him so that all the media, big mean on threes, not writing about him? You guys just got to get over it and put your big boy pants on. And you wanted a big time quarterback, you got one, and he gets media attention. Like it's just shocking to me. It's like, no, he's ours. You're not allowed to have him. Don't talk about Deuce Knight. Like you guys got to just put your big boy pants on. You're gonna be okay. So that wasn't the only 2020 or just in general quarterback recruiting topic because we also had what some quarterback recruiting news. Troy Hun is a quarterback who picked up an offer from Notre Dame. Was just like Wednesday night, I believe it was. And let's see, Troy Hun from Mission Hills in Southern California. Let's see, what was the other? Oh, Brady Hart set up a visit to get out to South Bend. So yeah, Notre Dame's already offered 7 quarterbacks prior to Pot of Gold Day. It'll be interesting to see if Notre Dame offers anyone else on Pot of Gold Day. My gut right now, Kyle, would be no. But yeah, we'll see. And if you had to make me pick like the 3 guys to keep an eye on this list of 7, it would be Troy Hun, again, visiting March 27th. Brady Schmeigel, who was on campus for junior day. and Brady Hart, who is visiting. I forget his date. I'm sure you remember it, Kyle. Sometime in April. So I think that's the group. Oh, you know what? Never mind, because I'm also throwing Ryder Lines in there. And I mean, you probably could just talk about all seven of the maybe not the Jared Curtis kid, but Noah Grubbs visited and Ryder Lyons. I know Notre Dame absolutely loves, so maybe like that's the four to really talk about would be like Ryder Lyons, Brady Hart, Brady Schmeigel, and Troy Hunt.
Yeah, I think the two guys I'm kind of monitoring right now is kind of just naturally because they've been the most newsworthy guys are Troy Hunt and um, Brady Hart. Both those guys visiting this spring. I'm just I'm making sure I got Hart's first name right. He's Brady Hart, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Got a lot of names running through my head. So um, real quick, I did want to add a note on Brady Schmeigel's recruitment because it's kind of really getting interesting, and I feel like so many times on this show, maybe it's because of my background covering Ohio State recruiting, but kind of um, it always pertains to Notre Dame somehow. But Brady Schmeigel just reported an Ohio State offer this week. That got that's pretty interesting because for a long time, people thought Ohio State would get Jared Curtis, but now it looks like Curtis is kind of trending towards Georgia. And then it was Will Griffin, Justin Thurman, the Notre Dame running backs commitment that Notre Dame offered was going to possibly end up at Ohio State. Now it looks like they are turned their focus to Schmeigel, perhaps. So that's why it kind of goes back to me really focusing on Hun and Hart right now. I think Lyons, like you said, is a guy they really want to get up to campus. That was the very first guy that Coach Marcus Freeman saw during the January recruiting contact period. So I checked in with Ryder earlier this week, or maybe it was last week. I don't think he has any visit plans. But yeah, Troy Hunt and Hart are going to get up to campus. And the two interesting things about their recruitments is neither of those guys have ever visited a school in the Midwest. Of course, Hart being located in Florida, and then Hunt being located in California. And the other thing that I've really found intriguing in this cycle is all Notre Dame's quarterback offers are over 6'2". So sounds like they kind of got a prototype in the type of guy they're looking for to succeed Deuce Knight.
Yeah, I think to yeah, probably need a little bit more like time to be like, does Gino and the staff do they just only want tall quarterbacks? Like it might just be like, oh, they're just the best available. But yeah, something to see. I mean, obviously you would rather have a taller quarterback, but also you just want the best quarterback. This is Brady Hart's film we got up on the screen. If you made me pick which one of these 26 quarterbacks that I think they're gonna get, if you ask me like right now, I think Brady Hart is the guy. Just like from my time covering Notre Dame, then just kind of what I'm hearing about behind the scenes, like I think it would be him. You could definitely argue several of them, but just like like mental makeup, you know what I've gathered from interviewing him and all that, and it's kind of how he handles himself in general. That'd be my guess. Brady Hart, fantastic sophomore season, led Coco to a state championship in a high division in Florida. I think he'd be a really good get for the Irish and like a really good recruiter and face of the class kind of deal. So yeah, Notre Dame could certainly do worse. Brady Hart's a fine quarterback. All right, Mr. Kelly, let's see. So that's 2026 quarterback recruiting. We covered the Under Armour deal. Jerome Bettis was also there. I don't have video of him. I mean, I have it. I just haven't been able to cut it up yet. But you know, Jerome had he kind of got banged up on his first one-on-one rep, and then kind of battled through it. But when he got pressed, he kind of struggled to get separation. But both from what I saw from Deuce and Jerome was about what I thought. Like it confirmed what I thought about them before. Like Deuce is that's not going to be his best setting, but he's a fantastic receiver. Fantastic quarterback and athlete and all that. And then Jerome is a developmental receiver. Still has a fairly high ceiling, but definitely is in development. And so, yeah, that was kind of the couple other notes there. So, Kyle, we're going to go rapid fire. Notre Dame's offered, I think these are like the four most notable offers in February. Maybe we're going back to January a little bit. I can't remember. But this was just this week, and you talked to Dalen Penson. He's listed as an athlete, and that is definitely the term to use for him, just athlete overall.
Yeah, he's a ridiculous one too. He highly decorated track and field athlete in Georgia. Won state championship in the triple jump, 45-foot, 10-inch mark. Also, a 110-meter hurdle time was the runner-up for 14.21 seconds. But his performance at the Under Armour camp in Atlanta this past weekend was remarkable. He registered a 4.48 second 40, and his shuttle time was even more impressive, a 4.13. And that would have ranked third among wide receivers and second among defensive backs at this past year's NFL scouting combine. So yeah, this was a guy Notre Dame. Not surprised to see them offer. They, obviously a little bit early, but I feel like this is a theme with Notre Dame. Sometimes they get in, as you were alluding to way early on the show. There's some of these guys that they offer right away, and you're going to see a lot of the other SEC schools down there, follow suit.
Yeah.
And if you want to transition gears, because it's kind of the same thing with Javion Campbell. Notre Dame was one of his earliest offers, the defensive lineman from Kentucky, the Western Hills High School. Had some of those, lower core four offers like Cincinnati, Purdue, Minnesota, like obviously all good, respectable programs, but none of like college football blue bloods. And now Notre Dame jumped in. I know Javion's got a visit set to Ohio State come springtime. They haven't offered yet. Wouldn't be a surprise if the Buckeyes offered, to be honest. Javion's going to get back to Notre Dame. He visited on the 1st of this month. And this kind of fits, like we talked about Notre Dame's quarterback prototype in the 26 cycle. Well, the guys they are targeting on the defensive line, at least the remaining guys in the 25 cycle, and this goes back to what they wanted toward the end of 24 is guys with length.
Yeah.
That's why they targeted Niamdi Oboko from North Carolina, ended up signing with Georgia. He was like 6'7". Javion's another huge guy. I know Juju Marks from Kansas is a guy they're still evaluating, considering another 6'7" guy. So two guys that are really interesting targets for Notre Dame. And even with Penson, he told me he's got 2 Notre Dame visits in the works, and one of them is potentially going to be a camp in June. So that'd be really exciting to get to see him compete in person, and Notre Dame staff can evaluate what position they want to target him at. Because right now, as you said, it's the true athlete mold.
So like corner, running back, receiver, something.
I think so really interesting note about Penson's recruitment. He had 12 offers before Notre Dame. 6 were wide receiver, 6 were cornerback.
Okay. I wanted to mention real quick, last year. Okay, I'm going to step up, but I'm going to do another step back. I feel like every single time I go to one of these camps, Kyle, Notre Dame always offers a kid from the camp that I didn't know about, right? I'm like at the camp, and I'm like, there is a kid here somewhere who Notre Dame is going to offer like 3 days after this camp, and I'm going to be like, man, I was just there, but I didn't know who he was. And you know what? Notre Dame probably didn't know who he was either, or maybe they heard of him, but then they get the testing numbers from these camps, and then they're like, oh, you remember last year at that same Under Armour, we call it Atlanta camp. It's literally an hour and a half from Atlanta, but it's closer to like Birmingham than it is Alabama. But I digress.
Classic.
Isaiah Kenyon, who ended up committing to Notre Dame, flipping Georgia Tech, he was at that camp, and Notre Dame discovered him from that camp. So I was going into that thing on Sunday being like, there's going to be a kid who Notre Dame offers from this camp. But it's like, what am I supposed to do? Not film Deuce Knight and go find the diamond in the rough that Notre Dame's going to offer from that camp? It's like, and then they offer Dalen Penson from it. And I'm going to go see him next week. There's a lot of Notre Dame recruiting in Georgia right now, which I feel like for a year or two is kind of slow. But we got Dalen Penson, Jerome Bettis, Um, and let's see,
Devin Williams.
Devin Williams, and then smooth little transition. Do you want to try to pronounce this name? Antoine Deslauriers? I don't know. I feel like when I interviewed him, he
It's
told me,
not
but I don't.
Anthony. Interesting. But yeah,
I think
Canadian
they told me it was
linebacker.
Antoine.
Okay, yeah. So guy from Canada, and I was talking to a colleague of ours, and I described his game as a bottle rocket. Like you light him, and he just fires off, and like you never know where he's gonna go. But he is a hard hitting guy, and a guy that Max Bulla offered after visiting him at his school, and kind of knowing Max Bulla's background a little bit on his playing days, going back to Michigan State and then the
Yeah.
NFL ranks. No surprise that Bulla liked this guy, and he's going to officially visit Notre Dame June 7th to 9th. I think that's his only official visit scheduled. And we know that Notre Dame is highly successful with those Canadian recruits going back to 2023 with Devin Houston, Armel Mukum, 2024, Sean Sevillano, all three of those guys defensive linemen. And then 25 got the offensive tackle Will Black from Canada. So
Mm,
something about those Canadians, man, that just attracted Notre Dame. So wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame makes a push for them.
yeah.
Maybe they had a second guy from up north this
Yeah.
cycle.
I think they're gonna end up taking like 4 linebackers because they got Ko'Okia committed, who they love, by the way. Um, and
Lula.
Hulak. Did I say it right? Am I gonna get a message
Yeah,
from Kyle Kelly?
Dominic Kulak, which he's from Russia originally. His
N-
parents are.
No crap. Seriously?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So
you jot that down for the recruiting magazine. That's gonna be that's gonna be a really good angle. So
man,
Dominic
we just
Hulak. So Hulak.
Kulak.
Hulak.
Hulak.
I'm just messing with you, Kyle.
Dude, these kids probably think I'm so weird. I'm always texting them for their phonetic pronunciation.
You do. And Kyle, you know, people, I made this joke months ago, and people will still bring it up. Like, Kyle's the spreadsheet guy. So that's why Kyle and I think we work very well together. Kyle might disagree because I'm kind of the like, the dreamer a little bit. I'll just message Kyle, be like, hey, Kyle, in 6 weeks from now, write this article. I literally did that for the Pot of Gold thing. And Kyle's the kind of guy who will organize it. So that's, you know, you can't have 2 organizers and you can't have 2 dreamers. You got to have 1 dreamer, 1, you know, logistical person. So, but going back to the linebackers, I think they might end up taking 4. You got the 2, and I think they're going to get Antoine here. I think that's 3 if they push for him, which I think they will. And then like an Anthony Saka or like a Usu Boateng, Usu Boateng. I'm scared of getting those 2 mixed up, Usu Cormo, Usu Boateng. A Madden Farimo, you know, Marco Jones. There's another
Hey,
California line. No, Noah McCall.
I was gonna say we keep forgetting that, or I do at least. Noah McHale, who's
Yeah.
visiting April.
So he's visiting in April. Yeah, that's right. That news broke when I was on my trip last week. So I think they're all going to be like 4. And then yeah, so I got to go see him. So I got 4 guys here for the 2025 class that are uncommitted. So that's always a good time. And then you know, I wrote about Tristan Haynes at Blue and Gold just last night. I think Notre Dame's in decent shape for this 4-star linebacker. But
Corner.
now I'm seeing this RPM to. Okay,
Yeah.
so predictions were in October. Okay. I didn't notice the RPM when I was writing about him yesterday. So, yeah, Tristan Haynes, I like where Notre Dame's at here. You've talked to him. I'm starting to do more reporting on him, Kyle. I think I'm going to be talking to him soon. Like I said, Kyle's the organized guy. Kyle reminded me that I knew someone close to Tristan Haynes. I forgot. So thank you, Kyle, for that as well. So I hit that person up. So I'm trying to get in contact with Haynes, and I'm told he's visiting for a spring practice. Just got to narrow down the dates and figure that out. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on Tristan Haynes, Kyle?
Well, I wrote 3 thoughts after Notre Dame offered him. Gosh, I think it was earlier this month. So you can always dig back in the archives and see my extensive thoughts. Yeah, I think I posted it to his
There it
account
is.
there. Yeah. So a couple interesting notes on him. Another guy that has never visited a Midwestern school, like we talked about with the 26 quarterbacks Hart and Hun, and Haynes, all the Triple H's there. And the biggest thing with him that I find extremely interesting is pretty much all of his high school teammates have wound up at Oklahoma. One of those guys being a 24 running back that Notre Dame targeted, Xavier Robinson. Notre Dame was in a really good spot for him before they got a commitment from Kedron Young. Uh, so Robinson ended up going to Oklahoma, and I think three of his current classmates are also committed to Oklahoma, including one of those guys being a quarterback that transferred into the high school there in Carl Albert. It very highly esteemed high school program. No surprise that Notre Dame's trying to get involved there. So I think Notre Dame's working a little bit from behind Oklahoma. That's why there's a couple RPMs there, I think, because everyone's connecting the dots with it with his teammates winding up at Oklahoma, possibility of staying in state. But I remember when talking to Tristan, he was very excited about his Notre Dame offer, and right away, they kind of shot up to the top of his board. So this guy makes it up to campus, much like if Xavier Robinson would have before Notre Dame had to cancel his official because Kedron Young committed. That's a guy that you got to get him back for an official, but could possibly wind up in the 25 class.
Yep, good stuff. A comment here from Michael. He says, "So, Mike, since you've joined the Notre Dame beat, have you grown to appreciate slash like Notre Dame football? Not sure how you felt about Notre Dame beforehand, but was interested in your interest slash support slash respect for Notre Dame now." Okay, interesting question. Um, yeah, I mean, I grew up a Georgia Tech fan.
I never
Yeah,
knew that. That's
yeah,
hilarious.
it's tough. It's tough, man. Uh, and then so I grew up watching Georgia Tech, Reggie Ball, Calvin Johnson, Demarius Thomas, um, some of those guys. I think, Tashard Choice. I think he's like the Texas running back coach or something. Like he was a running back at Georgia Tech. So that's what I grew up on. And then I kind of just became a college football fan. It's kind of stopped watching them. Georgia Tech, it was just pretty bad with the triple option near the end of the Paul Johnson era. So like in terms of Notre Dame, like I mean, I think I cried in 2006 when Brady Quinn beat the Yellow Jackets in Atlanta. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I always like Notre Dame. And then like it's an interesting question because like interest, support, respect for Notre Dame now. My interest is this job is basically my life. So it's not like do you love Notre Dame? Do you not like Notre Dame? It's just like Notre Dame is life. So like, do I support? I mean, I think naturally I kind of do. I don't, like a lot of these things are just like mindless things. Like it just is. My life just kind of is Notre Dame. I think the people at Notre Dame are fantastic. Um, I highly, highly respect how they handle their football recruiting operations and just really football operations in general. I think they do things the right way a lot of times in a business in an industry that is shady, which is kind of how I like to do my business. Not shady, do things the right way. So yeah, do I like Notre Dame football? Like, dude, like it's my life. Like that's kind of my answer to that. Kyle, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think you tend to like root for people that you get to know like in this business, and I think a guy like Marcus Freeman, for example, it's hard to root against that guy. So I think some people know that I was a Notre Dame fan growing up, but once I got off to college, I was just too swamped and involved there in our school's athletics department. So I kind of stopped following Notre Dame football. I wasn't as big of a Notre Dame fan as some of my family members growing up. But yeah, I mean, this is a dream job for me. I love covering Notre Dame, and the big thing, like you said, they do things the right way, and it's easy to kind of hope and be appreciative of the times they succeed. Because they are such a they just do things the right way. So that's why I got
Yeah.
a lot of respect for the team that I covered.
Yeah. Bleeberg's talking about how I grew up a Georgia Tech fan. When you grow up in Atlanta, everyone likes Georgia. I just got sick of seeing the black and red, man. I just got sick of it. And I'm like, Georgia Tech's closer. Athens is an hour and a half from here, and Georgia Tech's 35, 40 minutes up the road. And you guys all like Georgia. It's just kind of pissed me off. So I like, going against the grain a little bit. Not with everything, but a little bit. So
Can I
there you
add
go.
one point to that? So where I grew up in Toledo, pretty notoriously split between Ohio State and Michigan fans. Ohio State, the in-state school, but Michigan's actually
Closer.
located closer. And like growing up, just Ohio State and Michigan fans, they're just insufferable. Like, and it's hilarious because me and my best friend growing up, both Notre Dame fans, and like us as Notre Dame fans, we do not like Ohio State more, or we did not like Ohio State more than Michigan. Like I know Notre Dame fans hate Michigan, especially some of the old timers when it goes back to, I think there was a circumstance where, Notre Dame had the chance to join the Big Ten or was in consideration, and Michigan, didn't let it happen. But us growing up, we couldn't stand Ohio State fans. It's kind of still the same way. We got a couple really good friends of mine are Ohio State fans, and we have some banter every now and then. But yeah, I was in a
No,
similar situation with you, man. Going against the grain in Toledo, Ohio, Irish Catholic growing up,
yeah.
kind of have to root for Notre Dame.
No, I think when you're like, I can't stand Ohio State fans. A lot of Notre Dame fans are watching this being like, yep, I'm from, Texas or Seattle or whatever. And they're like, yep, Ohio State fans, they're the worst. Like, no matter where you're from, you're probably saying the same thing. So I love it. No, Bleeberg says, my mistake. I thought you were Florida born. Um, I currently am in the Atlanta area. This is actually my third time living here. I've lived in Florida a couple times. I said Seattle. I live in Seattle when I was a young kid as well. So bounced around a good bit, but yeah, currently in the Atlanta area right now, and we'll see where I end up. So, but great thing about covering Notre Dame is you kind of live anywhere, which I don't know if there's a better, like I'm thinking about this, man. I don't know if there's a better place to live than Toledo, covering Notre Dame, because of all of the places you can drive. Now, is there many recruits in Toledo for Notre Dame? I can't remember the last one they've offered in Toledo, but you're close to Detroit. You can get over to South Bend. You can get over to Chicago, all of Ohio, Indianapolis. It's a lot of travel and driving for you, but you just have such great access to so many different cities for these drives. So I've said that to you
Tell my
before, but
girlfriend that, man. She's wanting me to move to Cleveland, and yeah, I love Cleveland as well. But it's hilarious because like all like all the guys in Notre Dame primarily recruits in the Midwest are all on the western part of the Midwest, not like Cleveland or that high school football in Southeast Ohio is not that exciting. But
you can
yeah, I
get more
mean,
into Pennsylvania. How far? Like
dude,
Cleveland to Pittsburgh?
they don't recruit Pennsylvania though. I
A
mean,
little bit.
Anthony Sacca, which is all the way in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
basically across the country. Pittsburgh, they really haven't been too successful in since the Heinishes. I know there's a couple guys. I think they're coming up in the 26 cycle that Notre Dame could offer, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do. It is interesting, being in Toledo and covering Notre Dame because I think there's pros and cons with everything, but I really like where I'm at, man, because I really can get to anywhere in the Midwest within 2 or 3 hours. So
No, we got to keep your ass in Toledo, bro. All right.
for it for
Cool.
now.
Well, we're going to sign off today's show right there with a little personal banter. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel for more content. If you are not subscribed to Blue and Gold, our current offer for you is $1 for 2 months when you use that promo code UND1 for new subscribers. Get the details over at blueandgold.com. So again, really appreciate you guys tuning in to today's show. We will be back next Friday, and we'll have plenty of YouTube content next week leading up to our Friday show. But again, thank you all for watching, and as always, we will catch you next time.